Black history is not just a story of past struggles, but a living testament to the resilience, innovation, and strength of individuals who have shaped not only African American lives, but the world itself. From the depths of slavery to the ongoing fight for equality, the journey of Black Americans is a narrative of profound endurance, determination, and triumph. Every battle fought, every victory won, and every voice raised against injustice contributes to a legacy that continues to echo across generations. Our story begins in the darkest and most painful chapters of American history, slavery. For over 200 years, millions of Africans were forcibly brought to the United States as slaves, stripped of their freedom, dignity, and heritage. The institution of slavery subjected Black people to grueling labor, brutality, and inhumanity. Yet, even in the face of such oppression, the will to resist burned brightly in the hearts of many. Enslaved people found ways to assert their humanity, creating vibrant cultures, preserving traditions, and finding hope in the most dire circumstances. One of the most iconic figures in this early struggle for freedom was Harriet Tubman, who was born into slavery but escaped to the North. However, her freedom was never enough. Tubman risked her life countless times, returning to the South to lead over 300 enslaved people to freedom through the Underground Railroad. Her courage and determination made her a symbol of resistance, showing the world that even the most marginalized could fight for their own freedom and the freedom of others. As the 19th century progressed, the abolitionist movement grew stronger, fueled by the voices of individuals who refused to accept the dehumanizing system of slavery. Figures like Frederick Douglass, a former slave who became a renowned writer and speaker, used the power of words to fight for the abolition of slavery. Douglass's eloquent speeches and writings demonstrated the intellect and humanity that had been denied to enslaved Black people and challenged the foundations of racial inequality in America. The end of slavery in 1865 marked a new chapter in the history of Black Americans, but the struggle for true freedom was far from over. The post-Civil War Reconstruction era brought some promises of equality, but soon the South enacted laws that enforced racial segregation, discrimination, and disenfranchised Black citizens. The fight for equality evolved as the 20th century approached, culminating in the Civil Rights Movement, a defining period that would change the nation. The Civil Rights Movement was not only a time of intense political and social action, but also a period of incredible personal courage. Figures like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and John Lewis led a fierce, multifaceted fight against segregation and racial injustice. King's leadership, characterized by nonviolent resistance, became a powerful force for change. His speech at the March on Washington in 1963, where he famously declared, "I have a dream," captured the collective aspirations of a nation yearning for equality. Rosa Parks, whose refusal to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama, sparked the historic Montgomery bus boycott, became an enduring symbol of defiance. Her quiet act of resistance ignited a citywide movement that ultimately led to the desegregation of public transportation in the South. Parks' actions were a powerful reminder that sometimes the most profound changes begin with a single, peaceful act of resistance. While the Civil Rights Movement achieved significant victories, the fight for equality was far from over. the push for voting rights, educational equality, and the end of racial violence continued throughout the 1960s and beyond. The assassination of leaders like Dr. King in 1968 marked a moment of profound loss, but also a renewed sense of urgency in the pursuit of justice. But Black history is not defined solely by struggle. It is also characterized by excellence, creativity, and innovation that have shaped global culture. The contributions of Black Americans to art, music, literature, science, and industry are immeasurable. The world was forever changed by the musical genius of Louis Armstrong, whose trumpet brought jazz into the mainstream, and by the vocal power of Aretha Franklin, whose voice became the soundtrack of the civil rights movement. In literature, writers like Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and Toni Morrison not only chronicled the Black experience, but also pushed boundaries, challenging perceptions, and giving voice to a community that had been silenced for so long. Hughes's poetry captured the hopes and struggles of Black Americans during the Harlem Renaissance, while Morrison's novels, such as Beloved, remain landmarks in American literature. Black excellence is also seen in the realm of science, technology, and invention. George Washington Carver revolutionized agriculture, creating hundreds of products from peanuts and sweet potatoes and helping impoverished farmers in the South. In the 20th century, Black inventors and innovators like Dr. Mae Jemison, the first African-American woman in space, and Katherine Johnson, whose mathematical genius helped NASA send astronauts to the moon, shattered barriers in STEM fields and proved that Black brilliance is limitless. The 21st century brought with it historic milestones, none more significant than the election of Barack Obama in 2008 as the first African-American president of the United States. His victory represented a moment of collective achievement, a symbol of progress toward racial equality. Obama's presidency was a culmination of the sacrifices and struggles of generations before him, but it also signified that there is still much work to be done. His tenure illuminated the need to continue addressing issues of racial inequality, economic disparity, and police violence that still plague communities of color. As we reflect on these monumental moments, it's clear that Black history is ongoing. In recent years, the Black Lives Matter movement has become a global force for justice, shedding light on the continuing challenges of systemic racism, police brutality, and the devaluation of Black lives. The deaths of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Breonna Taylor, and too many others have sparked protests and calls for reform, challenging us all to confront the deeply entrenched racial inequalities that persist in our society. Don't forget to subscribe us.